Hi, Aline there. You're watching HTML tutorial for absolute beginners, and in this video we will create a login form and also a contact form. So let's begin. Alright, so the first form that we will build is gonna be the login form. The login form will look something like this. And it would be great if you could start working on it, and after that we will build it together. The reason for this is that if you try to solve the problem on your own, you will actually learn a lot quicker and also a lot faster. So basically the whole learning process is gonna be a lot better. One small thing to mention over here is that even though we have some styling applied to this form, we don't need to create it from scratch. I'll show you what you will need to write in order to have that styling. But for that, you should be focusing on the core functionality of the form. So having that said, let's see each other in about 15 seconds with the solution. Alright, so as I've mentioned, we've already created some CSS to the project, and we have added the CSS under the style tag, placed in the head tag, okay? So you can actually pause the video right now and just copy this bunch of code over here. For now, you won't have to worry about anything because it's related to the CSS, it's not quite HTML, and you can rest assured that we will cover those parts when we will do CSS tutorials, alright? But for now, our main focus is gonna be the HTML side of things. Alright, so in between the body tag, let's actually create our h1, so that we will create our title, and that's gonna be my contact form, alright? Then, whenever we are dealing with the forms, I said that we should have the forms tag as a wrapper. And inside that form we actually had three sections. So we had the section for the label of the name, and then we had the input for the username, and then we have the label and then the input for the password, and last but not least we had the login button. Alright, so for that what we can actually do is rather try to group them into divs. So we'll create a div for the username, and inside of it we'll create a label for, and let's give it a name of username. All right, let's close that up. Or actually, I think, yeah, it's not self-closing tag. All right, so it's gonna be label for username, and in between we'll write username. All right, and then we'll create an input type text with an ID of username. Let's give it also a name of username. And that's it basically. Perhaps what we can do is actually create a break tag over here so that we make sure that the label is gonna be on one line and then the input is gonna be on the next line. So that's gonna be our first div. Our second div is gonna be the div in which we will store the password, alright? And for that we'll create a label for password, okay, and we'll write password, and then we'll create our input type password with a name of password, and as you might have guessed, the ID is gonna be password. Okie dokie, great. And last but not least, we'll create a div with an input type submit and a value of login. Okie dokie, let's actually save it and check the browser. Good, it's looking pretty decent, I would say, except for the fact that we actually haven't added like the password and then a separate line for the input, but we can easily do that by creating a break tag over here. And let's actually see how it looks, and I think it looks pretty good actually. It does start to look like some of the forms that you've seen in like different websites or so, and I think that it's a pretty good beginning. All right, one thing that we've missed so far is the fact that whenever we press the login button, we can basically submit those values even though we actually haven't written anything in the username or the password field, alright? And for that, what we can do is actually place a require attribute both on username and also on the password. So basically right now, whenever we try to click on the login button and we haven't entered anything as the username or password, we are basically being presented with this message. So that's basically our login form. I'm not really sure why I've written our contact form, because it's our login form. Alrighty, yeah, great. So as I mentioned, that's basically our login form. Next, what we can do is actually comment this whole piece of code, and we'll be making use of HTML comments. Okie dokie. So right now our second exercise is gonna be to build a contact form. So actually over here the same procedure applies, in which you should be trying to solve it on your own, and basically you can come back after about 15 seconds and we can do it together. Alright, so that's gonna be like the ideal solution. If not, or so, it's not a problem at all, because we will also see you in about 15 seconds and we will build the form then. Alright, so let's actually start with the contact form. So for that, we'll also create a h1 in which we'll write my contact form. Okay, and then similar to the login form, over here we will have 4 sections, in the sense that we'll have the name, we will have the email, we will have the message section, and last but not least, our final section is gonna be the submit button. Okay, so for that, we'll actually, similar with the login form, we'll create a div for each one of those, so that we make sure that they are grouped together. So inside the div tag, we'll create a label for, let's write your name, and over here we'll write your name. Okay, next we'll type an input type text with a value, or rather with a name of your name, and that's it. Our next section is gonna be similar, because it's gonna be a label for your email, and in this section the user should type in the email. One nice thing that I forgot to add is actually the ID. So it's gonna be your name, and here we have your email. Our first section is gonna be for the message. So we'll have a label for your message and an input type text, or actually it's rather a text area, not an input, with an ID of your message and also a name of your message. Okay, and finally we'll have the input type submit with a value of send this awesome data. Goody. Let's actually see what we have just done, and it looks pretty crappy, because we haven't actually added any break tags whatsoever. So let's start doing that. So we'll add a break tag over here, and then a break tag over here, one over here, and I think that it looks better, but not quite there. What we actually can do is actually add a break tag in between those sections, so that they will look a bit nicer. Alright, it looks a bit nicer indeed. But then we are faced with the same problem, in the sense that whenever we click on this button, we will actually... Alright, so actually we have a small problem over here that I want to share with you, and that is the fact that whenever we actually click on this button, it doesn't do anything. So even though we write something over here, it doesn't do anything. And the solution to that is basically the problem was the fact that I've actually haven't created like this form tag, alright? So basically, even though we were having these inputs, those weren't wrapped inside the form tag, and therefore they weren't in a way aware of the fact that we are dealing with a form, and therefore they were basically doing nothing at all, alright? So actually, like the simplest like the quick fix that I've done is basically add the form tag over here. And right now, whenever we write anything in it and we click on this button, we are actually sending the data basically nowhere, because we don't have any server-side code who's dealing with the response, but still. Alright, but another issue that we had is the fact that similarly with our previous example, we actually need to specify the required properties on those. And I think that's gonna be the last thing over here. So basically, alright, let's say that we write something to my name, and then we need to specify like an email, and then we need to specify a message, alright? And then we press this button and boom, that's gonna be our awesome contact form. Alright, so I really hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I think that you've learned something new, or at least I really do hope so. Our next video is gonna be pretty similar with this one, but instead we will tackle the registration form and also the subscription form. So just make sure to like this video if you think that it's useful, and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content and if you consider that it's at least 1% relevant, then please leave a like, a share, and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you on the next one.